feel like the Beastmen in 40K don't get talked about nearly enough, because their lore is actually really interesting. The only problem is that most of it is pretty outdated and the stuff we do have is kinda all over the place. Also, there's practically no artwork of them in the 40K setting. So for this video, we're gonna be borrowing a lot of artwork from Warhammer Fantasy. So use your imagination and just picture them with a gun and a chainsword, and that's them in 40K. So much like the Ratlings or the Ogren, the Beastmen have the same DNA as humans. They've just undergone a whole lot of mutation. So they're considered Abhumans by the Imperium. And these guys have hundreds of different origin stories. The only thing more varied than where they come from is just how many different appearances they can take. Bovine features are incredibly common amongst the Beastmen, but so are avian features, and canine, just to name a few. And regardless of what side these guys end up fighting for, whether that be the forces of the Imperium, or fighting alongside the Chaos Space Marines, the Beastmen make for deadly, albeit undisciplined shock troops. And the Beastmen don't have one dedicated origin story, and can be created in a lot of different ways. For example, we know that the Tzeentch variant of Beastmen known as Zangors are normally a byproduct of the Thousand Sons experimenting on their captured prisoners. Or sometimes they're made when the Chaos God Tzeentch gets bored. He picks a ship that's traveling through the warp and mutates all of them into Zangors. Likewise, in the Fabius Bile trilogy, we see him create a whole new race of Beastmen. They were one of his early attempts at creating a new race of humans. They end up living in the woods surrounding his laboratory. Over time, they basically developed their own society, and then they ended up worshipping him as the father of mutants. Humanity tends to view mutation as intrinsically linked to chaos, and that's not 100% inaccurate. But there are plenty of Beastmen that live amongst humans and don't have any connection to chaos. Now, the old lore states that the Beastmen were originally part of the Imperial Guard, and they served as basically suicidal shock troops. There's even one account of Beastmen that were so ashamed of what they were, that they basically dedicated their lives to repenting for the sin of existence. These Beastmen would then join the Imperial cult, and then would swear an oath to spill blood in the Emperor's name, in order to seek his mercy and forgiveness. Due to the enormous amount of hatred and persecution the Beastmen have to deal with, those that live within the Imperium normally have to live in the slums, either in shantytowns or the sewers of an underhive. It's not uncommon for them and other mutants to basically come together and create small shantytowns, where they look out for each other and for good reason are distrusting of outsiders. In the Eisenhorn trilogy, we actually see the protagonist end up in one of these towns, and the Beastmen there end up offering them protection and keeping them hidden. However, the hatred of mankind runs deep, and it's not uncommon for these shantytowns to end up being burned to the ground and all Beastmen killed, as various purgings of mutants is not uncommon within the Imperium. So sadly, it's pretty common for Beastmen to join Chaos in order to find protection. Now, there is one example of a Beastman who ended up becoming a sanctioned bounty hunter. His name was Gore Halfborn, and for a Beastman to receive any kind of sanction like that is insanely rare. So even though Beastmen are currently classified as Abhuman, which means they're technically still human, they are banned from living on over 300,000 Imperial worlds, and they're in danger of losing Abhuman status. And if that happens, it will basically be open season on them. Now, it's true that Chaos does offer them an escape from this, but the sad reality is that they're trading the chains of one master for those of an even more insidious one.